My mom always disliked her. From the moment I introduced Alana to my family, there was this undercurrent of disapproval. "She's not your type," Mom would say, a forced smile plastered on her face during Sunday dinners. My dad? He barely said 2 words, just shook his head whenever her name came up. But I didn't care. Alana was different, and I liked that about her. We met 2 years ago at this massive outdoor music festival. She was drunk, but adorably so, dancing barefoot on the grass, hair a tangled mess, laughing at everything. When she grabbed my hand and pulled me into her world of chaos, I was hooked. That night, after a whirlwind of music, drinks, and stargazing, we ended up together. Everyone said I was crazy. "She's too emotional. She's not wife material. She'll cheat on you. Mark my words," they all said. But you can't tell your heart to shut up, right? So, I decided to prove them all wrong. 2 months later, I got down on one knee at the same festival where we met, with fairy lights glowing around us and a cheap but sentimental ring in hand. She cried and said yes. I thought it was the happiest day of my life. But cracks started to show during the wedding planning. Alana didn't have a family, or so she said. No parents, no siblings, not even a distant cousin to invite. "It's complicated," she told me, eyes downcast. "They're not good people." That was enough for me. My family, of course, had a field day with it. My mom called her a liar outright. "No one just doesn't have a family," she said. "What's she hiding?" When my parents refused to come to the wedding, I was furious. "Fine," I told them. "You don't have to come. Alana and I will do it alone." And we did. It wasn't the big, beautiful ceremony I imagined, but we were happy. Or so I thought. Strange things started happening not long after we got married. The first weird thing happened about 3 months after the wedding. I came home from work to find a man, middle-aged, greasy hair, and reeking of alcohol, pounding on our apartment door. He looked like he hadn't showered in weeks. "Who are you?" I asked, stepping between him and the door. "I'm her dad," he slurred, jabbing a finger at me. "Where's Alana? She owes me." "Dad? I thought she didn't have any family." Alana appeared, pale and visibly shaking. "What are you doing here, Frank?" she hissed. The man grinned, showing yellowed teeth. "You married rich, didn't you?" he sneered, looking me up and down. "So how about sparing some cash for your dear old dad?" I stood frozen as Alana exploded. She screamed at him to leave, cursed at him like I'd never heard before, and slammed the door in his face. When I tried to ask her about it, she brushed it off. "Don't worry about him. He's just a drunk. He shows up sometimes to mess with me. It's nothing." Nothing? I wasn't so sure. A few weeks later, things got even weirder. Alana invited her best friend Crystal to stay with us for a month. "She's going through a rough time," she explained. I didn't even know Alana had a best friend. Crystal was loud. The kind of person who laughed at her own jokes, drank all the wine in the house, and didn't seem to have a filter. It started small. Her brushing against me in the kitchen, overly friendly smiles, asking if I worked out. I chalked it up to her personality, but then she got bolder. One night, while Alana was out running errands, Crystal came into the living room wearing one of Alana's tank tops, one that didn't quite fit her. She flopped down next to me on the couch, way too close. "You're too good for her, you know that?" she said, her voice dripping with something I couldn't quite place. "Excuse me?" I stammered, sliding to the edge of the couch. "She doesn't appreciate you? I can tell." "But I would," she said, placing a hand on my thigh. I jumped up like I'd been electrocuted. "I think you should leave," I said, my voice shaking. Crystal just smirked. "Your loss." When Alana got home, I told her everything. Her reaction? She laughed. "Crystal's just messing with you. She's harmless." I didn't feel like it was harmless. Something wasn't adding up. Crystal didn't leave after that night. Alana insisted she stay, claiming she had nowhere else to go. I felt like I was going crazy. Every time I brought it up, Alana either shrugged it off or got defensive. She's my friend, okay? You'd do the same if one of your buddies needed help. Except none of my friends flirted with my wife, and I certainly wouldn't keep them around if they did. Things came to a head a week later. I came home early from work, stomach twisting with unease. The apartment was too quiet, and the air felt heavy. I found them in the kitchen, talking in low voices. When they saw me, they both stopped abruptly, Crystal biting back a grin while Alana looked guilty. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Nothing," Alana said quickly, too quickly. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind replayed every strange moment since we got married. The secretive behavior, her sudden best friend, her dad showing up out of nowhere. Something was wrong, but I didn't know what. The next day, it got worse. Alana told me she needed some time to clear her head. "Crystal and I are going to stay at a hotel for a couple of nights," she said, avoiding my eyes. "What?" I stared at her, dumbfounded. "Why would you need to do that? We're married, Alana. We're supposed to work through things together." "I just need space," she mumbled, grabbing a packed bag. "I'll call you." They left, and for 2 days I heard nothing. Then, on the third day, my bank app pinged with a notification. A withdrawal, $3,000. My stomach dropped. I checked the account, and there were more transactions: gas, a hotel, shopping sprees at high-end stores, all made by Alana. My wife was draining our account. I tried calling her. No answer. Crystal's phone went straight to voicemail. When I called the hotel, they confirmed Alana had checked out earlier that morning. Panic set in. What was happening? Then, that evening, my landlord knocked on the door, holding an envelope. "This came for you," he said, looking concerned. Inside was a single note, scrawled in Alana's handwriting. "You're a nice guy, but this isn't working. Don't look for me." She was gone. The days that followed were a blur. My wife was gone. My bank account was nearly empty, and I felt like the biggest fool in the world. I went to the police to report the theft, but they weren't much help. "It's a civil matter," they told me. "She's your wife. She has legal access to the money." Legal access? That didn't make it hurt any less. I tried to call my parents, desperate for support, but I got the lecture instead. "We told you this would happen," Mom said, her voice sharp. "You ignored all the red flags, and now look where you are." Even Dad, who rarely weighed in, added, "We warned you, son. Some people just aren't worth the risk." Their words cut deep, but they weren't wrong. I'd burned bridges with my family to defend Alana, and now I was alone, broke, and humiliated. That's when I decided to do some digging. If she thought she could walk away and disappear, she didn't know me. It didn't take long to find a trail. Alana wasn't as clever as she thought. A charge for gas in a nearby town popped up on my account the next day. I drove out there, heart pounding, and found her car parked outside a cheap motel. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I waited, parked far enough away to watch without being seen. A few hours later, she came out of the room with a man I'd never seen before. Tall, well-dressed, and clearly confident, he had his arm draped casually around her shoulders as they walked toward the car. My stomach dropped. Who was he? He wasn't anyone from her supposed past, not that I even knew much about it. And he definitely wasn't just a friend. They were laughing, their faces close, sharing secret smiles like a couple on a romantic getaway. I couldn't believe it. Not just the betrayal of seeing her with another man, but the ease with which she moved on. While I had been at home losing sleep and wondering where I went wrong, she had been here, living it up with this guy. I followed them at a distance as they drove to a nearby bar. They ordered drinks, leaning in close, their hands brushing. I couldn't look away, even as my heart shattered. Finally, I decided I couldn't let this go on. I walked into the bar, my footsteps heavy, and stopped right in front of their table. Alana's eyes widened when she saw me, the color draining from her face. "Who's this?" the man asked, looking me up and down with a smirk. "I'm her husband," I said flatly. Alana stood up, trying to place herself between us. "It's not what it looks like," she stammered, but the words were hollow. "Really?" I snapped. "Because it looks like my wife ran off, stole my money, and is now playing house with some random guy." The man laughed, leaning back in his chair like he found the whole thing amusing. "Guess she didn't tell you, huh?" he said, throwing Alana a sideways glance. "She's good at that." I turned to Alana, my voice shaking. "How long has this been going on? Was any of it real?" She didn't answer. She just grabbed her purse and bolted for the door. The guy followed her, tossing a few bills on the table like it was just another casual date night. I stood there, frozen, as the full weight of her betrayal hit me. She hadn't just cheated, she had used me. Every moment of our relationship had been a carefully crafted lie, designed to get what she wanted. The next day, I froze all my accounts and started the process of filing for divorce. It wasn't easy, emotionally or financially, but I wasn't about to let her take anything else from me. In the weeks that followed, I slowly started putting my life back together. My parents, surprisingly, softened a bit and offered their support, though I could tell Mom still relished being right. As for Alana, I heard through the grapevine that she and her new guy tried the same con on someone else and got caught. I don't know if it's true, but I like to think karma has a way of catching up to people like them. In the end, I learned a hard lesson about love, trust, and ignoring red flags. I'm still picking up the pieces, but I'll be fine. And next time, I'll listen to my gut, and maybe my mom too.